And welcome everybody to a call with Dr. Cook. Today is Wednesday, May 27th, 2020 already. Can you believe that? And I don't know where the months go, but here we are with Dr. Vaughn Cook to talk a little bit about limbic arc. Welcome, Dr. Cook.
Hey, good to be here, George.
Yeah. I tell you what, there's been a lot that...
Should we tell everybody where you are?
Well, we're social distancing today. I'm actually stranded with a broken down car about 6 hours away from headquarters today. So here we go.
Wouldn't know it. You're coming through loud and clear. Sounds great.
Technology is amazing, isn't it?
It is.
But boy, we have had some great developments during since the last time we talked on this call, Dr. Cook. I mean, one of the things I think is significant is the new mushroom category and the new boost ingredients. There are a bunch of new boost ingredients, but talk to me a little bit about mushrooms, Dr. Cook. Why are the mushrooms so important?
Mushrooms are really terrific adaptogens. They help your body kind of get whatever it needs, and they do a good job that way. You know, we created the mushrooms category because I was on a call and one of our customers, our affiliates, requested that we put all those mushrooms in the category so he could get to them easier on his phone, and it was a great idea. So that's what we did.
Well, I know that the reviews have been coming in, have been raving about the mushrooms, and boy, what a powerful tool, Limbic Arc. I mean, here we're adding all of these exciting new ingredients, and it's not just mushrooms. There are a lot of things. There's Okinawa coral calcium and ozone, hydrogen peroxide. There's so many powerful things that are being added to the library, and so I would just encourage everybody to use it, to use your Spark Scan, and as these new ingredients come in, they will be effective for you. So.
George, I noticed you didn't read all of those words on the screen.
I don't know if my tongue can pronounce some of these words. There's a lot of
it's
stuff.
Okay. We can read them. It's just fine.
Piper longumine. I think that's a part of a long pepper out of India. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Hey, very good.
So I know that there's some powerful things that, and we have a list of things that we're continually adding in to make this even more powerful tool as we go. So another exciting announcement is we have a brand new How It Works video, and this is our opportunity to try and explain Limbic Arc in a very simple way. And you're going to find this on our YouTube channel. And I hope you'll take a look at it and use it. It's a short video, and it gives a great description of very high level how it works. I guess that's why it's called How It Works.
Makes sense.
The great news here is we're going to be releasing Portuguese and Spanish with this video probably within the next week. And we know that we've got a lot of friends that speak other languages, and we want to certainly help them as much as we can. And as we begin with this video, we'll be putting those out there. So please look for an announcement so that you'll be able to see that. So for our friends that speak Portuguese and Spanish, this is an exciting new development. I would say for our friends that speak other languages, we've taken the time to go and to put captions on YouTube. And so there's an auto translate feature on YouTube. And if you'll put your language in, it's certainly going to be a better tool for you than just like a typical Google Translate. And we've tried to make that as easy as possible. And so just make sure that you're using the tools that are available for you there. So that's exciting new development. So Dr. Cook, let's get right into it. We're going to talk today about inflammation. Inflammation, it's not that swell. That was pretty bad, wasn't it?
That was a bad one, but it's good.
Bad
so in a good way.
Inflammation, I mean, when you look at it, it's a normal part of the healing process, and it's an important body function. But when it becomes prolonged or untreated, it really causes a lot of issues. And it's been linked to lots of things. Just a quick website search on inflammation will show you that depression, heart disease, all kinds of things have roots in inflammation that's gone uncontrolled or unchecked. And in 2014, there was a study done that showed nearly 60% of American adults suffered from chronic inflammation. So we know that this is a problem, and inflammation is really a healthy thing. It's a healthy body response unless it gets a little bit out of control. Um, is that fair to say, Dr. Cook?
That is fair to say, George.
I mean, we know that inflammation should be part of the healing process, and then it should go away once the healing has occurred. But for when you have it and it sticks and stays, then bad things happen. So that's
correct.
about everything I know about inflammation, Dr. Cook. Maybe you could
Well,
enlighten us a little bit.
We'll talk a little bit more about it, and by the time we're done, we'll all be experts. But yeah, I've got some slides. Let me put these up on the screen.
By the way, I find it's interesting, Dr. Cook, that as you go through these, you're basically going to show us how the limbic arc app works. And it could be inflammation, it could be 100 different things that we talk about. But learning how to use the app is as important as using it itself. So, I look forward to you showing us how to work with inflammation. But the broader step here is if we use these concepts and principles, you can apply just about any topic.
That's true. That's true. And I'm going to start here, George, with the disclaimer, and that is Limbica is not a medical device. It doesn't diagnose or treat any illness. It's designed to improve the quality of life, and that's really our objective. And we don't say that tongue in cheek. That is the truth. Inflammation is what we're going to talk about today, and as you mentioned, inflammation is a normal process. It's a normal part of the healing process. This is one example of inflammation. So you see here a cross section of some skin, and there's been a cut in that skin, and you've got some pathogens. So you've got some germs that have invaded the skin because of the cut. And you get then the cells around the cut will secrete some I think of them as communication specialists, basically. They're referred to as PAMPs or DAMPs, and PAMPs are pathogen associated molecular patterns. DAMPs are damage associated. So you've got one communicator that comes out and says, hey, we've got a cut here, we need to heal it. And you got another one that comes out and says, hey, we got some pathogens here, we need to get rid of these guys before they cause us more grief. And the PAMPs and the DAMPs are sometimes called alarmins. In other words, so they're the guys who push the fire alarm and get the action to start. And part of that action that starts is what are referred to as mediators of inflation. That's an MOI. Looks like an MOL, but it's an MOI. And all of those things, and there's actually more than just these, but those things and others that act similarly are called cytokines. Now, cytokines are the response to some kind of trauma or some kind of injury. And one of their purposes is to liquefy the area around the damage or around the trauma where the inflammation needs to occur. And the reason this liquefaction happens is you need to mobilize, in this case, we've got phagocytes that are secreted into that area. And those phagocytes will eat and digest essentially the germs that have gotten in through the skin, through the cut. But in order to mobilize all of that activity, it creates this swelling or this liquefaction of the mesenchyme or the intracellular space. The pain that comes with inflammation is actually caused by your body's energy. It's called qi. So you'll get an aggregation of qi, and you'll get qi stasis. In other words, you'll get qi that'll stop flowing normally. Um, and when that happens, it usually results in some kind of a pain sensation. Also, you get the blood that congeals in the area and the fluids that congeal in the area, and that swells up and causes a problem. Another one we could relate to easily would be if this was, instead of a cut, it was a sprained ankle. You get a sprained ankle, and the sprain itself isn't painful. It's the healing process that actually makes it hurt. So you get the swelling, and you get this chi stasis, etc.
Well, it gets warm to the touch sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
there
Well,
are all kinds of symptoms.
yeah, which makes sense, because if you got more blood there, it's going to be warmer. If you got more chi there, it's going to be warmer. So we've got these cytokines that are kind of the key element here. And usually your body will, well, not usually, your body always needs an appropriate cytokine response. Maybe you just need a little sprinkling of cytokines. But the problem that we have is sometimes we get what's called a cytokine storm. And that means that our immune response is inappropriate for the damage. It's like you get you need to put a brad, which is a little teeny nail. You want to put a brad in the finish material at your house. And so you go get a sledgehammer and you hit the sledgehammer on the brad, and it ends up leaving a ding in the wood. That's an overreaction. You're over responding. Well, cytokine storms sometimes get this bad.
Oh,
And sometimes they get this bad. And the statistic you quoted earlier, that 60% of Americans in 2014 suffered from chronic inflammation, it means that for some reason we have ongoing offenses that are affecting our physiology in ways that create an overabundance and a persistence of these cytokine responses, and they become the problem. So too much of a good thing isn't a good thing. I put this picture in because this is an airplane trying to land in a severe crosswind. You can see that.
I wouldn't want to be on that airplane.
Well, you might. You don't know what the weather is. The pilot looks like he's got the confidence, but but what he's doing, he's flying it's called a crab, and he's got a crosswind, and so he has to crab the plane into the wind in order to keep it lined up with the center line on the runway. And what this pilot's going to do just before he touches down is he'll move the plane back in alignment with the center line, and he'll put the wheels on the ground. And it's a rough landing, but that's the way you do it. Now, the pilot needs wind in order to get this plane off the ground. But the problem is he's got too much wind for what he needs, and it's not a good thing. Cytokines are proteins, and they're released by cells, and they affect the interaction and communication between cells. A protein is an arrangement of amino acids. Amino acids get strung into peptides, and then they get folded into proteins. And you have different kinds of proteins made out of the same amino acids, but they're put together in different ways, and that's what makes them different. So an arrangement of things is what a cytokine is, and we know that information is what is conveyed by an arrangement of things.
Right.
Now we've got 50 to 100 trillion cells in our body, and each of those cells is designed to communicate. They all have receptors, and those receptors are tuned to specific signals. And a signal is just a packet of information. It's information that comes to us by the arrangement of the things that get presented to the cell, either energetically or chemically. And cytokines are great communicators. They tell the cells, hey, we got something going on here, we need help, we've got damage, we've got a pathogen. And as the body responds then to the message of the cytokine, the body will develop symptoms. A symptom is your body's best attempt at dealing with its current state. So if you have stomach cramps, as an example, that may be the result, excuse me, of you ingesting something that is damaging to you, and your body says, let's get this stuff out of here. And so your body creates an inflammatory response. It accelerates your bowel motility, and you end up with diarrhea. That's just getting rid of the poisons fast. Same thing with the blowing your nose, or with a headache, or with a fever. All of those things are inflammatory responses, and they're your body's best attempt to deal with some kind of a process that's going on. The goal,
I can relate to all of those. You get a stuffy nose, that's an inflammation response then.
it is. It's
I mean,
your
these are
body
all
trying to get,
symptoms we're familiar with.
yeah. And you know, one approach is, okay, I'm going to suppress the symptom, and sometimes that's appropriate, because if you get diarrhea and it persists too long, you'll end up pooping out all your electrolytes, and your body gets totally screwed up and you die. So a symptom can be dangerous. Most of the time, symptoms are not dangerous. They're just, you know, that's how my body's dealing with this. But the goal really is not to have that symptom persist, and that's the symptom may be our present reality. We want to move to a future reality, and our future reality that we desire is going to be better health and, you know, no runny nose. The problem is we have more than one possible future reality. And one of those future realities can be the persistence of the runny nose. If the problem that is stimulating the cytokine response is not dealt with, the symptoms will persist because the inflammatory response will persist. And that's when we get chronic inflammation, and that's when we get these chronic problems. And that's why they say, you know, heart disease is partly just a reaction. It's an inflammatory response that's inappropriate, and it actually ends up damaging your heart. Well, this is where limbic arc comes in. Limbic arc looks at these pathways to future realities, and we call them future focused vectors. So each one of those blue shards is pointing a different direction, and it goes a different distance. That's because future focused vectors, or vectors, have two characteristics. One is direction, and the other is distance.
Okay.
The problem we've got is that there may be an infinite number of future focused vectors. In other words, the woman here with the runny nose in the present reality probably has thousands, at least, of alternatives that she could pursue that would lead her to some future reality relative to her runny nose. And the question is, which one of those do we choose? Which future focused vector will get me where I want to be in the shortest amount of time? What we have done with Limbic Arc is we have placed in a database in the cloud a library of future focused vectors. We call them boost ingredients. We also call them virtual items. They are a digital representation of a physical item. And most of them have most of those physical items, no, not most of them, all of them have some known health benefit or some benefit to your quality of life. Now, the question is, all right, if these future focused vectors exist in the Limbic Arc database in the cloud, and I can access those, which of those do I want to access? To help us determine that on an individual basis, we've created what's called the Spark Scan. The Spark Scan requires two pieces of real-time biometric input. The first one we use is voice analysis, and the second is a tactile response. So you push the button and you start your Spark Scan, and the first thing the Limbic Arc does is it says, talk for 10 seconds. So you talk for about 10 seconds. And what you talk about is either yourself,
Okay.
and if you talk about yourself, you're going to end up with a spark that will give you kind of a general tonic info boost. If you talk about a particular topic or a particular situation, it will give you a spark that will then bias the algorithm in favor of what it is you've talked about. The reason that works is because voice is topic specific. So if
Okay.
I have a runny nose and I say, I've got this runny nose and it won't stop, and I don't know if it's allergies, I don't know if it's a cold, I don't know if it's a virus, but I'm just tired of it. Okay, I focused on the topic of my runny nose, and so my voice energy actually carries the information of that topic. And that's an important element in the spark scan. The next thing that happens is we then take that voice pattern and we create a target, and you'll hit, it'll appear on the screen 5 times and you'll hit it 5 different times, and we track the time it takes you to between when it appears and when you actually hit it. That input then gives us a real-time biometric dynamic input that we use to create the spark, and the spark catalyzes our algorithm. An algorithm is just a mathematical formula. We've developed a formula that allows that spark to essentially process all of those future focused vectors and put a score by each of them. It's a percentage score. It's called an outcome ratio. The higher the outcome ratio, the assumption is, the way we've designed it, the more likely that item will take you in the direction you want to go, and it will take you further in that direction. So it's a vector that takes you in the right direction and the right distance. That's our goal.
I see.
Then,
And,
so in the
and
case
so
of
when you,
inflammation, we have an info boost called inflammation. In that, we have organized in our library, we've organized some of those boost ingredients that have a known anti-inflammatory effect. And the reason we want that is because if you're suffering from some kind of cytokine storm that's you don't want to suffer from, then these anti-inflammatories, if you were taking them physically, would have a cooling effect on the cytokines. What we're interested in is the informational effect, not the chemical effect. So here's 3 of them. Arnica and nitric acid and serrapeptase are all things with known anti-inflammatory effects.
interesting. And so when you
George.
rank those responses, Dr. Cook, basically you're helping to pick. I know that a lot of times after a spark scan, some people just want to include everything. And what you're saying here is no, by picking the ones that have the highest response, and letting your body focus on wellness with those items gives you the better future focused vector response, correct?
Correct. That's our expectation. And then once you've selected the ones you want to include, you activate the info boost. That information is then sent to you through what's called a field effect. And that information is then received at a subconscious level, and your body, because it's built to deal with information, processes that information, and you'll see, hopefully, a positive effect in your quality of life. Now, the advantage that limbic arc brings us is that quality of life involves all kinds of things. One is health, another is relationships, another is wealth, another is your mood, another one is your ability to move, your flexibility, your strength. All of those things are factors in quality of life. And if when you set your spark scan, you talk about any one of those things, you then end up with a boost result that is biased towards whatever it is you've talked about when you did your recording.
Yeah.
And that's my presentation on inflammation, George, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Wow.
There we
You
go.
know, it's amazing how, how many tools are available in the Limbic Arc app. I mean, we've talked about lots of different topics, but once you jump into even something like inflammation and find how that can be used and how you can do it, I mean, it's all of a sudden, it's like there's more value added to the tool that we already have.
Well, and if people will go into our video library, they'll find presentations where we talk about how can an info boost impact me financially? How can an info boost impact me in terms of a relationship? And it all makes sense. If you impact a person at one level, it has a predictable spillover effect in lots of different places. So
Wow, what a powerful thing.
It's a fun tool.
I see our time's going by very quickly. We've only just got a few minutes left. But Dr. Cook, there are people who have submitted some questions. Ask Dr. Cook at limbicarc.com. And there are people who have sent us some great questions. We don't have time for a lot of them, but maybe we could pick up one or two if you've got just a minute.
I do.
Jose says, what if I'm allergic to boost ingredients that come up in the Spark scan? It's a great question.
This is what I would do, Jose. Let's say that you're allergic to ragweed and you know it. Well, let me think of a better solution there. Well, it could be anything. All right, so you know you're allergic to something and it shows up with a high number off the Spark scan. What you're dealing with in an info boost is not the chemical substance. You're dealing with the information that comes with this digital representation that we've linked to the physical item. And what I would do, and this doesn't mean you need to do this, but what I would do is I would run an experiment and I would include it in my info boost and I would pay close attention to, is my allergy getting worse or is it getting better? And if it's not getting worse, I would leave it there for a few days and see if it's having any effect on my, and I say air quotes here, around my allergy. Remember, the limbic arc is not intended to treat disease. It's not intended to cure your allergy. But sometimes the information allows your body to respond more appropriately to even an allergen. And you may find that it helps. That's the way I actually got into energy medicine, is I had essentially an info boost around allergies, and it was miraculous.
Well, and if you're concerned about it, you can always just deselect it in the boost, right?
Well, exactly, and that's the other side. If you knew that you had an anaphylactic reaction to peanuts, and peanuts showed up high in the info boost scan, I would probably not put peanuts in the info boost. Yeah. So you have to use good judgment, and I tend to err on the side of being conservative. If there's a question, I'll just leave it out because I know there's lots of ways to deal with a problem. Your body's very redundant. It's got all kinds of redundant systems built into it. So you don't have to get the exact solution. You just need to get a solution. And so I wouldn't recommend Jose puts himself at risk if he knows he's got a serious allergy and the allergen shows up. But if it's just a mild allergy, you might experiment because you're not going to put yourself in harm's way. At least based on my experience, that would not be the case.
Okay, we're going to go really quick.
Lolita asked, I better quit yapping so much, huh?
Well, no, this is great information, and I think that it's fun to hear. That's one of the advantages of these calls with Dr. Cook is we want to understand from your perspective what's happening. You as the founder of this technology, your opinions are very powerful for us all. So Lolita asks, I've been using certain info boosts in the Limbic Arc app to assist me with specific wellness areas. And she uses the example of the allergy info boost. It's kind of funny that we're focusing on that today. I've noticed these info boosts aren't giving me the results I expected. What am I doing wrong? Is there something that
Okay.
Lolita's doing wrong?
I don't think so. Um, one of the challenges that we have with limbic arc is exactly what Lolita expresses here. If I have, let's say, pain, and I turn on the pain info boost and my pain doesn't go away, I'm inclined to say, well, I guess it doesn't work. The challenge is the pain, or in Lolita's case, the allergy, may be a presentation of a problem that has a cause that she doesn't recognize or anticipate. And so you turn on an info boost expecting a quality of life improvement in a certain area. And if you don't pay attention to the subtle things going on in your life, you may miss the effect altogether, and you may abandon the technology before you've actually had the opportunity to experience the resolution or the expectation that you went into it with. So if you turn on an allergy info boost, for example, and your allergies are still giving you grief, ask the question, well, is there anything else in my life, or is there anything about the quality of my life that is improving? Maybe you're sleeping better. Maybe maybe your appetite improves. Maybe you're not as grumpy. Maybe you're easier to be around. Maybe your kids don't bother you. It's all those things that are subtle that you may not attach to allergies or whatever the expectation is. But if those kinds of things are happening in your life, know that there is a positive effect taking place. And if you
Right.
persist in utilizing limbic arc, you'll very likely find that over time, you're going to, in homeopathy, we talk about it as peeling the onion. You're going to peel off these outer layers of the problem, and you're going to get down to your core expectation, and it's going to be dealt with in some way. So
So the advice to Lolita was to just keep going.
I tell people you need to try for at least 2 weeks an info boost, and you probably should try for a month to 2 months before you say, hey, this thing doesn't work for me. Now there's going to be some people who just are going to be dissatisfied, and frankly it may not work for them. This is not intended to be a, hey, it's going to improve your quality of life whether you like it or not kind of device. you know for for most people, I think they see a difference and it does have an effect.
It's
But
great advice
there's just going to be
to look
some who
for.
doesn't, and that's okay.
It's great advice to look for other things. If you're sleeping better, then that's going to affect you in lots of wellness areas.
Right.
And sometimes, okay. One, I know we're over time, but I'm going to go one more question. Julia asks, how come I'm only able to run 3 info boosts at a time on the app?
The reason we limit it to 3 is because you really don't need to throw too much information at your body all at the same time. I think that too much of a good thing is not a good thing necessarily, and we just felt like 3 info boosts, that should be enough for people to have maybe one constitutional boost and a couple of, this one's going to run for 2 days and this one's going to run for 3 days, uh, and you play around with those. So um, it's just it's obviously an arbitrary thing we put in, but honestly, based on clinical experience, it really is plenty.
Well, you certainly wouldn't want to go and to take a whole bunch of botanicals. You wouldn't want to take a whole health food store at the same time. Maybe
Correct.
it's appropriate to limit your choices. Um, and I know that there's also a great video on overload that may be very helpful for people who are asking that question about running multiple apps at the same time. Again, that'd be on our YouTube channel. Dr. Cook, thank you so much.
Hey, great to be
It's always fun.
always. It is.
Um, I, I would just remind everybody to also right now put on your calendar Wednesday, June 24th is going to be the next call with Dr. Cook. Invite your friends, invite people to come and listen in. What a great chance to learn a little bit more about wellness. I think that we've all learned a little bit more about inflammation and wellness, But the fun part is we've also learned how to use the tools that we have with the Limbic Arc app to address some of these issues. So what a powerful combination. Um, Also, I would mention we've got a fantastic customer service. We actually call them our customer success team. And if you're having issues, you need some work with your accounts, some adjustments or changes, or even if you need help setting up an info boost, go ahead and give them a call. If you look on the Contact Us section of our website, you'll find the contact information and get to know these folks. They're really great, and boy, they're some of your best friends in terms of your wellness using Limbic Arc. Also, I would just point out that we will be sending an announcement email tonight with a replay link of this. So look for that, and feel free to share that along with other people that you might know. And while you're at it, why don't you take a look at the library of topics we've talked about? If you'll go to the Limbic Arc website, just click on the monthly call with Dr. Cook. It's actually on the top of any page, and or you can go directly to our YouTube channel and listen to these and re-listen to them every time. There's great information that can help you on your journey to wellness. So, Dr. Cook, I think that wraps it up. We certainly appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
George, good to be with you, and hurry home.
Okay, all right, and everybody else, use your app, be well, and we look forward to seeing you next time on a call with Dr. Cook. Thanks very much.
Thanks.